we go.
This
Yeah.
meeting is being recorded.
Welcome, everyone, for this beautiful divine moment where we are gathering in the name of God, Jesus, all the mentors of this group, the healing doctors. Thank you for allowing us to commune with you and open our hearts and minds to the new teachings that we will receive today. And before we start our meeting, we would like to ask Regina to do our opening prayer.
I believe it's Sonia volunteered this morning. We're going to let her have.
Beautiful, Sonia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sunshine. Let us close our eyes and Heavenly Father, our Father, Divine Master and Teacher, our Blessed Mother, we thank you for gathering in your name, bringing our hearts and minds together to learn as our Father, our Divine Physician, Teacher, Model, and Guide. We ask you and all of our angels, mentors, our own mentors, and those of BSH, to inspire also our brother Luis for your teachings. And we ask, Father, to open our own minds to plant the seeds of education, open our hearts to your will, so that we may learn to walk your journey. And with gratitude and love and permission, Father, we ask your permission to open up this morning's session and healing learning session for this morning with love and gratitude. We open our session for this morning.
And so be it.
And so it is.
Thank you so much, dear Sonia. So we're meeting here at Beseja Spiritual Healing Center, where our beliefs are focused on scientific, philosophical, and religious findings. These are also the principles of Spiritism. We do not discriminate against any beliefs or anyone, so everyone is always warmly welcome. Emmanuel taught us that for us to ascend to God, we need two wings, the wing of love and the wing of wisdom or knowledge. So we are here to study, to expand our knowledge and wisdom, and at the same time, we're focused on putting those teachings into practice, and that is being loving members of our community of this world to let our light shine. During the week, we have several beautiful opportunities to gather and to expand our knowledge, and also to meet in prayer. Every night, except for Sunday nights, we meet at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for a prayer, and you're welcome to assist us, to join us in that. And Monday nights, we have a members closed only meeting where we help all those spirits who are in need through healing. And then Tuesday nights, we offer a class on forgiveness. As a matter of fact, this will be the last one this week. We will start a new book in 1 week, actually, after Easter, and we will announce more about that. But so far, we have been studying forgiveness as the way and the way to forgiveness by Almeida. And the meeting is from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And then Wednesday nights, we have fraternal assistance meetings. So you may contact us and you will be scheduled with one of our brothers and sisters. That's between 4 and 7 p.m. And then also Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. It's all Pacific Standard Time. We have a study group of Psychology of Gratitude by Divaldo Franco. And then Thursday night, between 6:30 and 7:30, we have a study group on Living Spring. And then Sunday nights, we meet from 5:30 to 6:45. As a matter of fact, we have changed that from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We meet and study workers of the life eternal. However, that is also coming to a conclusion and completion, and we will start with Sex and Destiny by Andre Louise. And in the mornings, we have this beautiful, lovely gathering. So now we are extremely excited to have our very special guest, Luis Lima, fresh out of and in Brazil at this moment, but he usually resides in Florida. And he will give us a talk. He will talk today, and his subject matter will be the balance of the soul. Beautiful. So let me introduce Luis formally, and in our hearts, let us already welcome him with so much gratitude that he is here. So Luis Lima was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Mr. Lima holds a degree in electronic engineering. And in 1990, Luis Lima moved to the United States, where he began his journey in Spiritism. Due to the vast knowledge in science, he became one of the most requested facilitators of Spiritism in both languages, Portuguese and English. Mr. Lima is a renowned lecturer in the Spiritism movement and participates in local and national seminars and events all year round. Wonderful. Let us warmly welcome Luis. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure.
No, thank you very much. I'm the one. It's my pleasure to be here to use this time for learning, because I'm learning as well. We're all learning here. So yeah, as you said, the balance of the soul. I think it's a very interesting topic here. It has to do with being in balance in terms of being centered. You know, like especially in modern society, it's very easy to go off center. If you watch the news for 10 minutes, that's enough to, you know, throw us off tracks, and we want to react, you know, using different emotions. It's very complicated. We're going through challenging times, and it's very easy to lose track of our balance, the balance of the soul. So I think that's the idea behind today's work. I'm going to share the screen here because I wanted to show you. I want to make sure we get this thing understood correctly. So I'm going to start by, you can see the picture here, this image. When you look at this image, the first thing that comes to mind is balance. Something is in balance. Something is perfectly, you know, as it should be. However, even though we are spiritists, we are still, most of us, following the materialistic paradigm, almost 100%. And I'm going to show you why. And if we know why, it's easier to get out of it. So that's the idea behind it. We go off center because we are still living a materialistic paradigm. Again, most of us spiritists. So if you think about balance, equilibrium, something like that, the first thing, one of the first things that comes in mind is mathematics. If you have an equation, something equals something else, that's a perfect balance. What's on the left side of the equal sign equals what's on the right side, and that's it. Perfect equilibrium there, perfect balance. If you think about physics, for example, you get somebody, you know, walking a tightrope, you know, you have got to be very careful. It's very easy to lose balance and fall. So the guy is going through, you know, the tightrope. When it gets to the other side, the equilibrium, the balance doesn't matter anymore, because now you're on solid ground. So it doesn't matter anymore. It's temporary. It's something that needs to be for a few seconds, maybe a few minutes, and then it dies. So it's not something forever and ever. And those are, if you look at geometry, for example, if you get a box, right, or something like this, right, and it is possible to put your finger on a certain location and the box will stay in there. You just have to find the right location. So those are examples of equilibrium, of balance. But you see, all of this, those are punctual things. For example, if I need to maintain this thing, under balance using my finger, there's it's a punctual thing. There's only one point that my finger has to touch, and only one that will make this thing stay. If I move my finger 1 millimeter to the left or to the right, the whole thing dismantles. So there is only one point of balance when you think about this. Now, all of these 4 things that we spoke so far, they do not apply when you think about the soul. You can't put a soul in equilibrium by doing this, and well, let me see where my point of equilibrium is, my point of balance is. You see a point, the word says punctual. Soul and punctual don't go together. Punctual is something physical. It's something that requires physicality. It's something material. Soul is not. So all of these things here do not apply. If I try to maintain my equilibrium by finding a certain point, a certain situation that keeps me there, it's going to be temporary. It's going to be like walking the tightrope. Once you pass through, that's it. It doesn't apply anymore. And I think that's where most of the problem is. So we wanted to show first why anything material does not apply to the soul. Because I'll tell you, most of us still do not grasp the idea as we should. So let me start from the very beginning and show you why we are still under the materialistic paradigm. We go back to the very beginning. We know that from God, 2 things emanate. One, God being the supreme intelligence and first cause of all things, as described by Spiritism. You see, the God that I'm talking here is the God as defined by Spiritism, not God, the old man with a beard, nothing like this. It's God as defined by Spiritism, which is not the purpose today, so we're just going to mention it. So this supreme intelligence, first cause of all things, from that, 2 things emanate. One is the spiritual principle, and the other is the universal cosmic fluid. And there is no common point between those. They are completely separate. That's why you see 2 boxes that don't touch each other. Of course, this is a visual representation, but there's no touch between the boxes because there is no point of connection between those 2 things. Now, from the universal cosmic fluid, in it are all the seeds of anything that one day is going to be material. Of all sorts, material, matter as we know, matter as unponderable. So the entire creation takes place when the spiritual principle acts upon the material principle, more and more and more and more, until one point that the spiritual principle knows how to manipulate the material principle. It became so good on it that will go to the next level. Now it's ready to infuse life into the material principle. When the spiritual principle gets to this point, it kind of graduates, if you will, it gets a diploma. And we from that point on, we call this the intelligent principle. We no longer call spiritual principle. So spiritual principle is related to the mineral kingdom. Once this principle evolves to a point where it knows how to deal with life, we call it intelligent principle. And the intelligent principle will again continue to interact with the material principle to form things that are much more complex than before. So it goes through the entire plant kingdom, it goes through the entire animal kingdom to a point where it becomes so developed and so, I would say, advanced, that it kind of gets a second diploma. So it gets to the next level, and that next level is the spirit. So the spirit is a particular evolution of the intelligent principle. And it doesn't stop. The spirit will keep interacting with the material principle, creating things that are much more complex than before. So that's a global view. We don't want to get into details here because this is part of evolution. That's not the objective today, but we need to understand things. We need to contextualize properly. So the spirit will continue to interact upon the material principle to form different things, like, all the matter things that we know, chair, computer, whatever it is, right? And physical bodies too. Now, if you look at this image here, everything that is within the yellow box is object of study by science through its different segments. So we got quantum mechanics, quantum physics, chemistry, biology, a million things. So science studies what is inside the yellow box, nothing outside of it. Us, spiritists and spiritualists in general, we study everything that is in the green box. What do we study? We don't. You see, there is not a single spiritist that, as a spiritist, go to the chemical lab to run some sort of experiment. We don't go to a physics lab to run experiments. We don't excavate. We don't do geology, any of this. We, as spiritists, use the results produced by science to study what we need to study, which is the green stuff. We study the creation, existence of God and spirits, world of spirits, moral, everything that you see here and much more, of course. We do not study what's in the yellow box. We acquire results from science to understand how the intelligent principle develops. And that needs to be understood properly. We use their results. We don't produce anything. We don't go to the lab. They do, and they produce. They show us the outcomes. Okay, we did this particular experiment, and this is our findings. We use those. So there is no, I would say, overlapping between what we study and they study. A lot of times, especially in the works of André Luiz, we get into biology, not because we are biologists or we are studying biology, because he needs to refer to what we know about the human body to explain the evolution of the intelligent principle. Okay, so that has to be clear for us. So you see, why doesn't all of those things that we spoke about, why don't they apply to the soul? Because they apply to what's in the yellow box. The soul, the spirit, the world of spirits, none of this is in the yellow box. So the idea of equilibrium and balance, as we mentioned before, the little box and all of those, they do not apply to the soul. It's not applicable because we are not, or because spiritism is not part of the materialist paradigm. We are part of something different, which is the spiritist paradigm. And what is the spiritist paradigm? What does it study and what is it concerned about that the materialist paradigm is not? Several things, I'm going to mention 3 of them. First, we study things as perispirit. That's not studied by science. That's studied by us. We rely on highly advanced spirits, evolved spirits, to tell us about it. That's how we get the information from. We do not get that information from science. They do not study that. That's a straight spiritist / spiritualist study. So we study that. Another thing, mental and spiritual health. That's not in the yellow box. They might try to get to this here and there, but not with the depth that we need to have the references for. We study those things at length. Spiritual health, mental health, they do not. And finally, and this is probably the most important thing you see on this slide so far. Above, in the materialist paradigm, everything is punctual. Below, in the spiritist paradigm, nothing is punctual. Punctual means, if you think about punctual, it means one thing is here, the other thing is here. That's punctual. There's a clear definition of what this is and what this is. They don't touch, they don't interact. Visually, it's very easy to see. So I got my two hands representing 2 points, for example, good and bad, good and evil, right and wrong, which we're going to study more about it shortly. But you see, this is a punctual approach to things. It doesn't apply to the soul. What applies to the soul is a spectrum that starts at a certain point, named simple and ignorant. And it goes all the way through all the possibilities, all the way to the very top, named perfection. So you see, to define the equilibrium, the balance of the soul, how do we do this if it's part of a spectrum? It's no longer punctual. There is no magical point where I put my finger and the box on top stays exactly in perfect balance. If we try to find that point, what makes me, you see, if I'm trying to find what makes me be in balance, that's a materialistic approach. I'm trying to use the materialistic paradigm for something that's not materialistic. It doesn't work. I'm gonna clash. I'm gonna have a conflict down the road somewhere, because what I thought is gonna work is not gonna work. And one point, the whole thing dismantles. And you see, this has to be very clear. This particular slide, this difference between these two things has to be clear for us. So we can move from here away from the materialistic paradigm. So I wanted to bring some more information here. To talk about balance, we're going to talk about what's not balance first. So how does the soul lose its balance? Not so we're talking about the soul. It's not the materialistic paradigm anymore, right? How does the soul loses its balance? How do we go off track? It's a sequence of things. Like I said, it's a spectrum. It starts light and easy, and it can be very complicated. It starts always with simple dissatisfactions, something simple that is not important, but we make importance out of it. Let's just say, for example, that you're looking at something and somebody puts the glass on the left side of the table. You want the glass on the right side of the table. That's simple. I mean, it's not important, but if you go there and you move, or even if you think about it, oh my God, this person put this glass on the left side. It shouldn't be here. It should be on the right side. That's a tiny, 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 really tiny moment or seconds of dissatisfaction. And it will go away in seconds, because nobody's going to be thinking about the placement of a glass over a table. It's not going to bother. But when you have, 10 of those things throughout the day, maybe 50 of those things throughout the day, it will start to impact us. So it all starts with little tiny dissatisfactions here and there that pile up. When they pile up to a certain point throughout our days, months, years, lifetimes, those things will lead to personal conflicts, where now I have a much bigger problem, because how can I deal with this? So if you think about, for example, Jesus, when he's taken to Pontius Pilate, Pilate knows that he's not supposed to be there. He didn't do anything wrong. So he's trying to get Jesus off the hook, per se, and he doesn't really know why. That shows that he was undergoing a tremendous personal conflict, because he knew that if Jesus went to the cross, he was going to be doing something wrong, even if he didn't do enough, like washing the hands. It's a tremendous personal conflict. So we go back in time and we say, well, but that was 2,000 years ago. You know, Pilate is dead. The whole thing is over. It's not over. It's not over, because if you bring this to our personal history, each one of us, personal spiritual history, every time we do something wrong, knowing what the right is, we're doing the same. We're killing Jesus. Or we are, to say the least, let him go to the cross. We're not preventing him. And we do this all the time. How many times a week we do this? It could be a tiny, tiny, tiny little thing, but they pile up. So every time we do something wrong, knowing what the right is, we're signing off our actions as Pontius Pilate. That's the personal conflict level. It piles up to something more extreme, like cancel culture, which is a totally separate class. We can spend hours on this. We're not going to talk about it today, but cancel culture is this. It's something that we don't want this. I don't want this in my life. Get it out of here. So instead of trying to go back in balance and live with the situation, no, we just want the situation off. Okay, that's what cancel culture is. And it leads to the next level, which is emotional crisis, where we start, everything makes us go off track several times a day, several times a week. And the last one is depression. So we get a point where we are in full imbalance. We lost equilibrium, if you will, completely. And now we cannot even get out of it ourselves. We need help. That's what depression is. So all of these things, these are only 5 of them, and really brief. I'm talking really fast on those. They show signs of imbalance, and none of these things use geometry or physics. No, they do not apply to the soul. How do we get away from this thing? The best way that I've found to understand for myself and to explain to others is right in the Spirit's book, questions 100 through 113. It's called Spiritist Hierarchy. That's the name of the chapter. The Spiritist Hierarchy is when Allan Kardec questions the spirits if they're all the same, advanced at the level of advancement, and the answer comes back as no, they are not. You can put this in categories. So Allan Kardec creates categories to explain better about advancement, moral and intellectual advancement of the spirits. So he creates these 9 categories here that you see on your screen. Impure being, the least advanced ones, and pure being the most advanced ones, perfect spirits. The color scheme has a meaning. What does it mean? The 4 categories in the bottom, shades of red, represent what the spirits call 3rd order, imperfect spirits. What are imperfect spirits? How can we define them briefly, at least? The most important thing is those spirits live and put their focus on material life rather than spiritual life. So everything material takes precedence over anything spiritual. Our life here, for most of us, is mostly material, and that's what we are mostly concerned about instead of spiritual life. Another characteristic of these imperfect spirits is propensity to do evil things. It's almost, and if you go down to the scale, if you go down, to the impure, it's like this. What can I do that is bad today? What evil can I do today? Well, unfortunately, I didn't find anything evil to do today. Oh, yeah, okay, so let's do something good today. It's almost like that. It seems like it's exaggeration. It's not. You can see this on the Spirit's book. Another thing that the Spirit's list as imperfect is the inability to understand God completely. We might have an intuition here and there, but we cannot even define it. We cannot even define it. So we don't fully understand God. We might have this general idea, but we do not understand. And another thing is, these spirits are disturbing spirits throughout the 4 categories that you see: impure, frivolous, pseudo-learned, and neutral. These I'm going to call red spirits. The color facilitates a little bit the vocabulary here. These red spirits need a place for their development, spiritual development. Where is that place? One of them is the earth. Planet Earth is for imperfect spirits, 3rd order. 90+% of us living on the planet, when I say living, includes discarnates. It's all of us, 25, 26 billion spirits. We are mostly imperfect spirits. Occasionally, somebody pops up that is one of the good spirits above on the next level, the 2nd order that we're going to speak about. So occasionally you have a Gandhi here, a Divaldo Franco there, a Chico Xavier here, Mother Teresa there, but it's rare. It's rare, and they come to help, of course. What is a 2nd order spirit, also called good spirits? Good spirits, it's the other way around from the 3rd order spirits. The predominance is on the spiritual life rather than material life. Think about the names that I just mentioned: Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Chico Xavier in Brazil, Divaldo Franco. These people are not at all concerned with the material life. They are concerned with spiritual life, spiritual well-being, spiritual development. That's what good spirits are. There is never, ever propensity for evil. They desire to do good all the time, 100% of the time. Nothing in terms of, let me see if this thing is not good. There is no such a thing. Doesn't cross their minds. And they have very good knowledge of things. However, they are able, contrary to 3rd order spirits, they are able to associate their knowledge, their intellectual knowledge, with moral qualities. You see, we have 3rd order spirits that are very, very, very intelligent. Example, Osama bin Laden is one of them. To put together what he was able to requires a level of intelligence above the average. But there is lacks moral quality. So, we know what happened there. Good spirits will never use their intellect without moral qualities associated with them. And on the top, we see pure spirits, 1st order spirits, which are perfect, absolute superiority, both morally and intellectually. These spirits do not need to develop themselves any longer, per se. They do not need to incarnate for that reason. They incarnate as a mission only. And that's the only reason. If they are needed, if they feel that they're going to be able to help people, they will incarnate. Example, Jesus. He didn't incarnate to, grow. No, he incarnated as a mission, a clear mission, by the way. So when you look at this thing on the screen and the idea of equilibrium, a few things pop up. If you think about mathematics, okay, I'm going to use my 2 hands, physics here, all right, a scale. Let's say that this here is heavier than this. So this, how do I put these things together? I have to bring them to a point of equilibrium. So it has to be 50% on this side and exact 50% on that side. Otherwise, it's not going to be in equilibrium. You see how this does not apply to the soul? Because if it did, a good spirit A spirit would be in equilibrium if you were pure 50% of the time and impure the other 50% of the time. It doesn't apply, it doesn't make sense. I'm trying to use a materialistic point of view to define the equilibrium, balance of the soul. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. What is equilibrium of the soul? The soul is in balance when you are at the top, not when you are in the middle. A soul in balance is when you get to the top. So a high order spirit in green has a better balance, equilibrium of its soul than a neutral. A neutral spirit has a better balance than frivolous, and so forth. But to get to the point of balance that we know of, where things never go wrong, things are all perfectly placed, everything is right, you have to be at the top, not in the middle. So with this, a lot of little things have to be considered. Number one, the spiritist paradigm is not punctual, it's a spectrum. What do I mean by spectrum? Let's think about good and evil. You see, on a materialistic point of view, good is here, evil is here. A materialist is going to ask you, where was God, whatever, on 9/11? So on this location of the earth, New York City, on that day, God was not there. This is evil here, and good was somewhere else here. So you see, it defines 2 points, 2 physical locations. So there's a location where good is happening and a location where evil is happening at the same time. That's a 100% materialistic approach. The spiritist approach is, and sometimes it's difficult for us to understand because we try to understand good coming from evil, because we are evil spirits. We are third order spirits. So that's our reference. We try to come in from here to understand this. I'm going to suggest doing the other way around. Let's come from the bottom. So from the top, I'm sorry. Let's come from the top. On the top right here is 100% good. That's called God. There's a name. And only God, 100% good all the time. If you come down, I'm doing this visually, and I'm going to use percentages to make it easier to understand. If you come down from that top, down here, 90%. So those are spirits, still pure spirits, very advanced, and they do good 90, they are good 90%. These are 80%. So this is good 60%. This is good spirit 50%, good spirit 30%. You see, if you use good spirits for the entire scale, you're not going to be able to communicate. It doesn't make sense because they're not all equal. So you cannot use the same name. Here's an example. Let's just say that I tell somebody, would you please go to the room next door and get my blue coat? Okay, the person, okay, I'm going there. So the person gets into the room and there's petroleum blue coats, royal blue coats, turquoise blue coats, baby blue coats, dark blue coats, light blue coats. The person will not be able to define which one is mine. They have to come back to me and say, listen, this is what I found, a lot of shades of blue. Which one is yours? Now I have to define what is mine. I cannot say blue because it didn't work. There are too many shades of blue. Similarly, I cannot use the word good for the entire spectrum. So I can use good for here, maybe somewhere on the top. In the bottom, I have to use a different word. That word is evil. But you see, evil and good are part of the same spectrum. They are part of the same spectrum. They are not, one is here, the other is there. No. You see, this is evil because I cannot use the same name as this. It would be a mess to communicate. So good and evil are part of the same spectrum. Coming from the top, good, 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 then evil, 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 evil. Question, where is the turning point? Coming from the top, where it is no longer good and it becomes evil. It's not in the middle. It's not. It's not in the center of the scale. It is where I am. If I'm down here, from here up, it's good. From here down, it's evil. Because we are our own reference. We are our reference. So for some people, good starts here. For some others, starts here. For some others, starts here. Good and evil are not punctual. They don't. There is no GPS that takes you into good or GPS that takes you into evil. Similarly, right and wrong. There is no this is right and this is wrong. This is materialism. This is two physical points. There is no such a thing. We're talking about the soul. So the same way that we have a spectrum, evil and good, we have a spectrum for right and wrong. How should we see this? Right here, wrong here? Well, I know more, I know less. I know less today, but I will know much more in the future. I'm going to be here. It's part of the same spectrum. It is not right here and wrong here. This is a materialistic paradigm, point of view, which we need to get away from. If we don't get away from, we are never going to be in balance. Our soul is never going to be in balance. Another one, heaven and hell. You see, if heaven is here and hell is here, that's materialism. Two physical points. No. Hell here, same spectrum, heaven here. Or we could say, I'm happier, I'm not so happy. You see, happy and unhappy are part of the same spectrum, which we give different names, paradise and hell, heaven and hell, but they are on the same spectrum. They are not physically separate things where if I'm in hell, it is not possible to reach heaven because it's in another place, it's in another location. No, if I'm wrong, I cannot be right. No, we will. If I'm evil, I'm never going to be good. No, you will. Because they are all part of the same spectrum. And this is an important thing because you see, if we are seeking this balance in our soul, we need to raise up from here. Somehow we need to raise up. But it's not only one spectrum, it's a million of them. There's a spectrum for evil, good and evil, one for right and wrong, one for tolerance, intolerance, one for patience, impatience, you know, and one for peace and war. If you go to the guy who is creating the war on an interview and you ask him, put a microphone and say, why are you creating this war? His answer is clear, because I want peace. You see, war and peace are on the same spectrum. There is no war here and peace here. There is no such a thing. That's materialism. So, like I said in the very beginning, even us, spiritists, we are still very attached to the materialistic paradigm, which makes it complicated for us to be in balance, because we seek things. We seek one thing by just leaving behind the other. See, like what I said, cancel culture. Canceling somebody doesn't make me any better. Exactly the other way around. Because whatever is in there is still part of the spectrum that I have to deal with. So Spiritism is this new philosophy, this new line of thought, this new way of thinking that explains the spectrum. Explains that if I'm here, I will be here. But not by divine decree that, I wake up tomorrow and my mailbox is a divine decree saying, as of Thursday, you're going to be perfect. No, there is no such a thing. Of course, it's a personal, not transferable. I have to do my homework. I have to do work. I have to actually do it. So attachments to the past usually puts us in imbalance, but we have to look at them no longer from the materialistic paradigm. We have to look at them as, I was just here, and now maybe I'm a little bit more. Or I want to be a little bit more. I need to leave these things behind. I need to detach the shackles of past actions. Otherwise, I will not raise within the spectrum. I can show hatred here for somebody, hatred here, love here, part of the same spectrum. So if I hate somebody because when I was 3 years old, the person did this or that, or when I was 20 years old, he did this and that. If I'm still living that, I'm still living when I was 3, when I was 20. So how much did I raise up here on the spectrum? 0. I cannot raise on the spectrum if I'm attached to the past, living in the past, repeating things that are part of the past. We need to put those behind. Having those in our minds all the time is materialistic paradigm, because there's a point in the past that holds me here in the present. That makes 2 points. This is my past, and I'm still mad about that person, and I still complain about that person every week or so. And every time I watch TV, I remember that for 50 years ago. That's a point in the past that's punctual. Every time that I have something punctual in my life, I'm living the materialistic paradigm. I'm never going to be in balance in terms of my soul, equilibrium, centered. It's important to understand that. So you see, life around us does not define who we are. We define who we are. If I want to be coming back to the past 3 times a day, nobody's going to prevent me from. It's personal, not transferable. Of course, it's not good for myself. We design and deliver our own future. And the future better be up here than here again, and here again, and here on the next life, and here on the next 2 lives, and here on the next 3 or 4 or 5 lives. But for me to go here, from here to here, we need to get away from the idea that things are punctual. Punctual equals materialism. Allan Kardec tells us something very interesting. We take our heaven or hell wherever we go. And there's a book that is very interesting, whose title is Wherever You Go, There You Are. Profound. Wherever you go, there you are. So let me stop sharing my screen here, because we don't need that anymore. But that's the idea behind today's presentation, today's study. Things are not punctual. We need to start paying attention to our way of thinking punctually, because it will prevent us from getting better. So I'm here for discussion, questions, suggestions.
Thank you so much, Louis. What a pleasure, and so clear. it really helps to put things into perspective and where our work lies and to kind of distinguish a little bit, right? Because sometimes we're in this murky mess and we don't even know which way to turn. When I saw your chart, it also reminded me of our frequency that we emit when we are on the different developmental stages, right? And I'm sure we've all heard of Dr. David Hawkins' frequency scale. And he puts the turnaround where we go into the higher vibrational fields, which goes hand in hand with your chart, at 200, which is courage, and 250 neutrality. So it's really just the same. It's basic, so it's just another layer to also know what we're putting out, right, on a frequency level. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I really enjoyed is the last thing you said about how much we live in the past, which is materialistic, which really ties into the work, the importance of the work of forgiveness. Because that
the past, we should see the past as points, materialistic. We don't want those.
Exactly.
They are part of a spectrum. I need to get better, but I can't see them as points that will, like, shackles that, I'm stuck in there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so whoever, please, the floor is open.
So Luis, thanks so much for being here with us. Really appreciate your time and your dedication, call at the last minute, and you accept the invitation. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So on the aspect that when we are here on the third level now, let's see, we're still on the bottom line to be a good spirit.
Right.
It's just because the vulnerability to go up and down. And until we define this point, just to be disciplined enough to belong to the second stage. That is it.
Yeah, we don't go down. We don't go down. So if we are, for example, frivolous, which is the second from the bottom, we are not going to turn into impure. Okay, we're already past that point, so we never go back. It's from this point up.
Yes,
No.
it's like when you're talking. Remember the evolution. Now, when we evolve completely. You cannot evolve partial. You evolve or you not evolve. And then that image, when we were talking, I saw in my clairvoyance like a butterfly. The butterfly was going throughout the process to the cocoon. And after she had the wings, we will never see butterfly walking the grounds anymore. It's rare when you see that it just came to my vision. I said, wow, it's impressive.
Yeah, it's a process of transformation, exactly the same. Yeah. Once you get past, the lower scale, you never go back there.
Thank you.
But you are able to understand them.
Yeah.
When you are, for example, frivolous, which is still very at the bottom of the scale almost, you can understand the impure. But the impure do not understand the frivolous.
Yeah, the mentor sometimes we say we need to break old patterns because we came and we have the information from the previous life, and then we tend to repeat them again. But when we are consciously of them, so we will not allow them to take control of our life anymore. We are in control of our evolution.
Right. Yes. Yes. And it's different speed for everyone, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Everyone has its own pace.
Yeah. And every test,
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed your talk, but it put me in the mind of how I think, and everything that happens in my life, even with my family and friends, whatever happens on the material level, I immediately think spiritual. What the heck happened in spiritual level? Well, how do I fix this on my spiritual level? That's what I do. I mean, no matter what it is or whoever it's in my mind, I revert to spirituality. Because it starts there. That's what I am, a spirit. So I'm thinking that all the time.
That's what we all should do, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do that. You see, you turn into the news, watch the news for 30 minutes. Watch people watching the news for 30 minutes. At the end of the news, they want to punch somebody, they want to, you know, say bad words to somebody, a group of people, whatever it is. And you shouldn't be.
Right. And even when, not to get political, but just as a point, even when the process in which Donald Trump is going through, my mind goes to the spiritual level, even with him. It's like, oh, this cat is got, you know, this is where he is on his spiritual thing. When he disincarnates, he's going to see, he's got work to do. You know, I mean, that's just how I'm thinking. Or this is a level where he's given another opportunity to rise above, and either he do or he don't, or he's giving us a lesson, you know, to see how we think on these different levels. It's just all very amazing.
I think this is an excellent example. When you think about him or similar people in similar situations, at the spiritual level, we understand what's happening. Well, he's going to have to offset what he did, and this and this and this and this. And this is a spiritual way of thinking. A materialist way of thinking can lead to wrong conclusions, because materialistic point of view is on day such hour, this person did that, and that was wrong at the time, that wasn't good. So now we have a pin into the past. This person always also did this. There's another pin on the past. If you see this from that point of view, materialistic, when this first pin, let's say that the first pin is, I stole money from somebody. Okay, here. So I stole money from somebody. And here I did something more, let's say I killed somebody. And here I did something else. If there's a pin in the past here that I stole money, 50 years later, when you talk about me, you're going to say, no, this guy stole money. So you are you are being unable to unpin this. And if you do not unpin this, I'm going to steal money forever and ever and ever and ever. And you're always going to see me as a photograph of the past. I'm always going to be the one who stole money 60 years later, 50 years later, because you, not me, you put a pin in the past here. And that's a materialistic point of view. That's not spiritist. Spiritist is, he was down here. Hopefully he's already here. Because dishonesty and honesty are part of the same spectrum. It is not you are honest and you are dishonest. This is materialism. You see the difference? Hopefully I was able to, to tell you the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Also with me, one of the things that work in my world is if I stole from the past, and I'm trying to move forward to, let's say, even get a job or own something. And every time I get something, it's taken from me. In my mind, it's like, oh, hell, wait a minute, stop. What did I do to deserve such a thing? And also the step further would be, I'm not going to do this to anybody because I don't want this to happen to me anymore. Because I'm thinking, again, it's all related to something I did.
Right,
whatever happens to me. I mean, that's just what I do. I try to unravel and not let this repeat.
Yeah, you're offsetting past actions. That's what it is. You're offsetting past actions. You see, for example, honesty and dishonesty, right? If you're down here and you're coming up, of course, but if you're here, for example, at this level, there is still a possibility to be dishonest. If you're up here, that possibility is no longer there. And when you get here, for that particular spectrum, the spectrum of dishonesty, honesty, you have transcended the spectrum. Dishonesty is no longer a possibility. I can accidentally put $1 million in your purse without you watching. When you look at your purse and you find the money, the first thing you're going to do is, oh my God, I got to find the who lost this money. The person might be desperate. It will never occur to you to say, I could take a couple of bills here for me. It will never occur to you.
Right.
Because you're nowhere here. You're here at the top of the scale for this particular spectrum, dishonesty, honesty, and it's the same for all spectrum, impatience, patience, intolerance, tolerance, hatred, love, it's all the same.
It's an example. The other day, I got this huge package of kid clothes, shoes, double pants, shirts, and everything. I'm like, where the heck did this come from? I don't order for kids. I don't have any kids in my house. My niece comes, but I don't order for her. Anyway, I called the company trying to return the package. You know what they tell me? Well, if you give me your email and your information, we're going to charge you.
Incredible.
Dude, you give me a package that doesn't belong to me. Somebody's looking for their stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
It's just that kind of crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Anyway, I really
Are there any other questions? Comments? All right, so then let us transition into our second part. And Luis, you're welcome to stay. We're going to do a meditation, healing, and closing prayer. And please make sure that you have your water, and we're going to take 2 minutes break. So we'll reconvene at 11:08. That's Pacific Standard Time. Just focus on the 8. Sorry.
But Luis, one thing I was so not surprised, because the evolution of the human being is everywhere. When Russia started to attack Ukraine badly at the beginning, and I was devastated every day seeing that inside of your house. And the reporter make a question from some resident, and the area was the most devastated there. And it said about what that person think about Putin. And that is still resonating in my soul until today. He was a very wise man. And he said, we learn through the Christ teachings to forgive.
Yeah, exactly.
And he is in a stage that he's a bad man. I cannot hate him, because I will go to the same stage that he is.
Exactly.
So I cannot love him, he said. I cannot love what he's doing, but I pray for God to touch his heart, so one day he can do only good. Until today, that resonated in my soul. So that was a good spirit.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Let me just say one last thing when she brought this up, so before I can finish. If you think about the scale, right? If you are down here, let's say frivolous, right? And somebody is aggressive towards you. So let's say they are at the frivolous level, they come to you very aggressively, at least you think they are. You see, if you reply by the same token, with the same aggressiveness, you are replying horizontally. So that means you are at the same level that they are. This is materialism. That's 2 points in equilibrium on the same line. Spiritism teaches to not do this, but to do this. You bring hatred, I'm going to reply with the top of the spectrum, love. You bring impatience, I'm going to reply with the top of the spectrum, patience. And it goes on and on and on. You bring me bad things, I'm going to reply with the top of the spectrum, I'm going to bring you good things. This, receiving this and replying with this is what Jesus calls the other face, the other cheek. You bring me this face of things, I'll reply with this one. That's spiritism. Replying on the same line is materialism. It doesn't let us grow because soul does not depend on matter. Okay? I just want
And
to.
that was the reason Chico Xavier, and today we're celebrating his birth, April 2nd now.
Yeah, that's right.
And one of the great example of Chico Xavier was that only do good, no matter what others does to you, only do good. Never give up goodness. No?
Yeah. Can you imagine, for example, somebody attacked or came aggressively towards Jesus? Can you imagine him thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to do this? Am I going to be as aggressive as this person? It doesn't cross his mind because he's at the top of the scale. So he will not come down considering coming down here for a response. There's no such a thing.
All right. Shall we switch? Thank you so much.